StoryChat with John Fornof, the art and passion of storytelling. Here's your host, Bryan Bullabush.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to StoryChat, our little corner of the internet where we hope to inspire and educate you guys about the art and passion of storytelling. I'm here with my good friend, John Fornof, who is in beautiful Pasadena, California.
That's right.
What you doing in Pasadena?
I'm hanging out in a park. It's a beautiful park. Here's Pasadena right there.
Yeah, there you go.
That's actually a restroom. Okay, so we're in Pasadena. It's Singer Park, and I guess people sing here. We were talking about doing a singing podcast, but I think we decided not to. Yeah,
absolutely.
Our gift to you is I'm not going to sing. So that is my gift to humanity. All right. So I will say questions. Go ahead.
We do, but I was just going to preface this by forgive us. His internet's a little on the spotty side since he's using public Wi-Fi. And he's in the West Coast and I'm over in the East Coast. So if we have some technical difficulties, please bear with us. But we do have some questions from Miss Shireen, and we will cover those more at the end. But she gave us 5 questions, which is tackling them all. But her 4th and 5th question really blended together and gave us the really good segue into this week's topic, which is choosing a medium for your story. If I've got a story idea, I want to write a sci-fi action drama. Is it going to be better as a book? Is it going to be better as a short story? Is it going to be better as a short film, a feature-length film, a mini series? What should I make my story? And once I decide, what are the different writing techniques that those stories are going to be? If that makes any sense.
Okay, there's a
that's a deep rabbit hole.
Choosing it could be, yes. And so many times I'm like, why am I answering this question? So I'll just answer it from my experience, and you can say, I don't agree with that, and that's okay. I'll just tell you my experience writing for television or film or
out of all those mediums, books, what are those what are the mediums that you've written for? Obviously audio drama. But what other ones have you written for?
Audio drama, says radio. I've written for television. I've written for film, written screenplays, and I've written books. So I guess that pretty much covers the gamut. Or as I said on statewide radio one time, that pretty much covers the gamut.
The gamut.
Yes.
Covering
I was doing live news, okay, and I was like reading down the copy, and I grabbed this thing I hadn't read ahead, and just to fill up time, and I'll look at this word, it's running the, what is that word? I said, and of course you have to do everything with confidence when you're on radio, live radio. So, and they are running the gamut from da 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 da. Anyway, I came out. My boss is going, John, run the gamut. Yeah. So anyway, okay. We digress. So let's get back to
digress.
Shireen is just like,
well, there are some other ones, if I may. I think stage play. Is another one.
Done that,
but that is a very, very, very close cousin to screenplay. A little bit different, a lot different, but Wow, this is a really cool question because it could go so many ways. I'll just tell you from experience, so we'll do it that way. By the way, Shireen had a couple things she said, which I really appreciate. We love questions. Now look at this. We're gearing our whole show around Shireen's questions, so we can make a whole show about you. So whatever your question is, who knows? So, well, they're good prompts. They're good prompts to help you guys get going.
We love it. So yeah, we're here to serve you and encourage you. So let's get to the point here, John. All right. So she said something up front. I just want to point out that it was encouraging to us. So you guys can encourage us too. She said the podcast has been very helpful in making me more bold in my writing. It's like, yes, I love that. 2 things.
Success.
Yes. Yes. Thank God. Trusting your audience. And that again is respecting the intelligence of the audience, and write truth and go wherever it takes you. That's a bold and adventurous place to go. So thank you, Shireen. Those are wonderful comments. So how do you want to start? You want to start with question 1 here? Or wait, your question. You just asked a question. There's a question.
Yeah.
Just for an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Just going into radio. How do you write? You have an idea. What is the best Now, generally, from my experience, you're generally writing for a specific thing. But I do know of some instances, like I've got a buddy who just does radio dramas, and that's all he writes for, and he's got the certain modes. But I can tell you, I've had several stories, and my wife's actually writing a story that she wants it to be a visual medium, but she doesn't know if she wants it to be a film, a mini series, or more of like a fleshed out, ongoing, full season TV series. Because all of those, it's more of a long form versus short form thing. So you generally might have an idea of what you want to write for, but what are the differences? What are the pros and the cons of some of those?
Oh, sure. Okay, so you're getting ready to write your story, and you got to figure out, hey, do I want to make this a book? Do I want to make it a stage play, a audio drama, a TV miniseries? Do I want to make it a film? Which one of these should I make it? So a couple ways to attack this. One is two different mindsets here. One is what do you feel comfortable writing for? And realize, you like to stretch yourself now and then, but this is your story. You've got your story here. And as you look at these different ways of expressing it, what do you think is the best way to express it? And what are you familiar with? What is it? Are you more strong with visuals? You might want to do screenplays. If you're more strong with dialogue, you want to do more audio drama. So that first question is, the first answer would be, what are your strengths and what's going to make your story shine the best? So let's look at the advantages of each thing we're looking at, and that might help you as we're going through. I hope it will. Right? All right. So let's start with a book. With a book, you could go anywhere. It's like you can have any quote unquote budget because there's no constraints about, well, we only have, $200,000 for this fire effect. No, you can do anything you want with books, which is wonderful. Use your imagination. So here's the cool thing about books. Books is you can go inside the brain. You can go inside somebody's thinking, okay, as opposed to film. And film, you got to figure out what they're thinking. And that's fun from an audience. But if yours is like an intellectual journey or a psychological journey, you might want to consider books. Because in the book, you're going inside somebody's mind and seeing how they think. And that's one way to write it. You can write, let me think here. That's omniscient point of view, where you're going inside everybody's brain. You can do it more like you just see the best kind of stuff is where you go inside their brain and you figure out what they're thinking. All right. And you can take it from one point of view. You can have two people thinking, that kind of thing. So if it's a thinking kind of thing, a psychological story, you might want to try books. That's an advantage there. If you love witty dialogue, and dialogue is just like, I love how they talk. When they get these two characters, get them in the room, and they're just dialoguing back, and there's some really great stuff that comes out of that. Audio drama is a showcase for dialogue, great dialogue. It's not limited to dialogue. Some people might think it's a limited medium, but it's not. It's a beautiful medium of using your imagination. But it is dialogue driven, and you got to write good dialogue for audio drama to go. And okay, let's go to stage play. If you're looking for something that is a story that is, it's interesting about stage play. It's beautiful. You're interacting live with your audience. So if that's important to you, where you have that immediate connection with your audience, and your actors are responding to your audience back and forth, that's a whole another way to tell your story. Let's go movies. We can go with theatrical movie. Now, in that one, if your story is something that is, it could be a deep drama, but it's told more visually. It's a more visually driven thing. If it's something that by the visuals, by the poetry in the visuals, it tells the story. Yes, there's dialogue. It's not so much getting inside their brain, not so much there. You're trying to figure it out. Okay, but it's more dialogue driven and visually driven. So it's a kind of a combination of those. So does your story work? Is it a visual story? Is it like, like Lord of the Rings, you got these fantastic sets, if it's sci-fi, where you got these wild sets, that kind of stuff. And does that convey your story the best? Really, it's up to you. What's going to tell your story the best? And TV series, what's beautiful about a TV series, if you've got this big world, like this huge world, and you're trying to figure, you got all these characters and all that, that's a great way for it's a great medium to tell your story in a TV series. Theatrical, you just really. What's that?
More long form.
Yes. and you get to know characters over time. And to me, I would argue that actually has a bigger impact on people, TV series, than movies. Because movies, you got one hit, it's great, boom, and then it goes. And we might have a sequel, maybe. But with TV series, you're invested, ongoing kind of thing. So there's some ideas. To sum up, what's going to tell your story the best? What are you most comfortable with? What's going to tell your story the best with those pluses and minuses in each medium? So,
well, what are some of the more, from your experience, the different challenges in writing for those said ones? Because I know for me, having the patience to write a book is, I don't know if I could ever write a book, because I don't even know if I have the patience for that. It's just writing and writing and writing and writing and drafting and redrafting and drafting and redrafting.
I'm getting tired just listening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's
writing and writing.
like, and I get the fact. I get the fact that for like audio drama or a film, it does include a lot of drafts, but let's face it, there's a lot more words in a book than there is a screenplay.
This is true. A lot more latitude, a lot more words. It's what drives you. Some people are great readers, and they're also great. They love the novels. They love those long. They love the longer stories and that kind of stuff. They love that, and that's their thing. And I totally get that. I loved writing novels. That was just it's a joy. You're going deeper than you normally would with it. Like my forte is audio drama. But there's something you can do with writing books. You can go again inside their brain and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking at it like that, you're thinking, "Oh man, I got to write and write and write. I got to write this." Don't do a book.
Yeah.
That attitude. Write what's good, what fits you. And once you get going and you find your voice, now you can stretch yourself. But when you're first starting, find something you can run with and go. And once you get that done, and once you get experience in your belt, now you can stretch out. You know what? I'd like to try this medium. So write with something that fits you.
Well, now I got a heavy hitter question for you.
Okay.
And that is the storytelling process any different? Is the structure any different from medium to medium?
Oh, wonderful question. I would say no. I mean, yes, there's some technical things, like they have 7 parts. Is it 9 parts for TV series? I've not written a TV series. I've written for television, but I haven't written a series. So you've got multiple parts. You got to get the commercial breaks on network TV and stuff like that. And there's different things you hit like that. But basically, it's 3-act structure. It's basically 3-act. It's good story is good story, whatever medium. And you've got, what does your character want more than anything else? What are they fighting against? And how are they going to get to what they want? That's the gist of great storytelling. So there we go.
Cool. And that's just for me, it kind of almost blows your brain, because I was actually reading a paragraph of a story, and it was a comedic little monologue talking about, it must have not, well, it was talking about that's really not important, but it had 3-act structure in it. It was this small little comedic monologue that just had 3-act structure in it, and it was maybe 7 sentences, and it was really funny. What it was about. What it wasn't about, it wasn't important. I just find it so interesting that it had the 3-act structure. It had the character development and all that fun stuff. And it blows my mind how universal the laws, they're not laws, but the forms of storytelling. The form of storytelling. Good story is
a good story. And when you're telling a joke, that's a form of a storytelling. So now Shireen asks you, I'm going to skip over this. Now I'm going to answer it. Like, I'm going to kind of like, what do you call it in politics? You deflect or whatever. Whatever. Okay. I just know what my strengths are. My strengths are not with the world of publishing. She says, how do you go about determining who does the publishing? Mm-hmm. I do not know. I'll just tell you that. I was so blessed. I was working at a ministry, and I was asked, usually what you do is you write a query to all these agents. Okay. You send out the queries, that kind of thing. And then you get an agent, and then now you pitch your idea, and they pitch your idea to the publisher, and you get all that kind of stuff. And you go through this whole process. For me, I mean, it's a whole gamut you got to go through. So anyway, you're going to run the gamut. So anyway, here's how it happened to me. It's sort of like, hey, John, you want to write a book? It's like, okay. and I wrote a book. I mean, I realized that was a cheat. I almost feel guilty, but not really because it was really fun. So anyway, I don't know that the world enough to tell you about publishing. So I know my strengths. That is not mine.
I actually can point her in a direction because this is something I've sort of looked into the past.
Yes.
Shireen, if you go to Amazon actually has a rather decent publishing option. Now, I have not personally done it. I've had friends who have done it. He has a book published on Amazon. It is a print on demand book. So they'll print it out for you, send it your way. Because I noticed you had friends and family encouraging you to get your stress reliever project, which we'll get to in a second. Friends and family encouraging you to get it published. If you don't necessarily have to get it with a big publisher. If you just want to have it in front of you, Amazon does offer a publishing service, which, like I said, I've heard is decent. It's good. It's nothing special or spectacular. I would do a lot of digging and research into understanding the copyright and how much of it you get to keep versus how much Amazon gets to keep, and if there are any exclusivity rights towards it. Because then you could be publishing to like Penguin House or some, I think Lifeway even has a don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but some Christian publishing company. You can send in a draft, see what they think about it. But if you want something pretty easy, check out Amazon because they've got a really decent solution.
That's cool.
So we'll go back to
your question. Our first question. You want to try that one?
Yeah, going to the first question. When starting out with a writing project, how do you determine who your audience is or who you're writing to?
Well, the first person you're going to write to is, this can sound very selfish. You're going to write to yourself. Okay, you're going to write out of your heart, write out of your pain. We're going to talk about that in another. We're going to do a podcast called Writing in the Dark. And it's about writing out of pain, writing out of your tough places you go through with life. That's going to be a future podcast, so hang in there for that. It's I can't wait to do that one. But you write your story out of your heart, and I realize, yes, you got to know your audience. Yes, when you're beginning, write out of your heart and write truth, and you will find your audience. That sounds very like. Oh man, that sounds very like a kumbaya moment. But there's something about when you find your voice. It's very important to find your voice. When you find your voice, you're going to find your audience. So write what's true to you and write well, and you will find your audience. Sometimes, like when you're running a commercial, yes, you really do need to know your audience, and you need to know, this is a 35 to 44-year-old mom. She's got whatever, that kind of stuff, it's that kind of, when you're writing commercials, yes, which is storytelling too, by the way.
Well, that's marketing. That is specifically towards a demographic.
Exactly. And so write for an audience that you could, here's another way to look at it. Write for an audience that you can relate to, that you want to talk to. Let's say you want to talk to kids. And so spend some time with kids, So I would say, as far as figuring out who you want to write for, is know if you're writing for kids, for instance, get around kids. If you're writing for old people, get around old people. Whoever you're writing for, get around them and learn from them. Learn, and that will come naturally. But first thing, as you're starting to write from your heart, as you find your voice, you will find your audience, and then you can write for them.
Well, that actually goes into another piece of advice that I was given back in college: is write what you know, and if you don't know it, research it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can go from any. If I'm writing a movie about cars, I need to know how a car works. If I'm writing a devotional like you are, Shireen, obviously you need to know scripture, and you need to know all that stuff. So,
what if you don't know, research. That's great advice. So, what Bryan said, I love that.
Well, that's. Thank Darrell Nelson for that one. That was a piece of advice that he gave me when writing my thesis project. And it actually really helped me out because I was like, well, I know World War II. I'm going to write a World War II story.
That's awesome.
So
we got a few questions. We want to wrap up soon. So let me jump into them. What's you want to go for question 3 here?
Yes. Now this is a big one because I know people who have, really floundered or written too slow or written too fast. Is there any kind of timeline from going from start to finish on a project when you don't have a like a distributor or a publisher set deadline. Shireen, you've been mentioning you've been working on your devotional for 2 years and maybe losing momentum. John, you got anything on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have a deadline, and without a deadline, it can kind of like it goes on in perpetuity. Whatever that word is, it goes on for
perpetuity.
Yes,
propriety.
I know what that word I want to say it. It comes out my mouth. It sounds very unintelligible. Anyway, that word.
Running the gamut.
It's going forever, right? Yes, running the gamut. Yes, you gotta have a deadline. Set a deadline for yourself, and if you surpass it, don't beat yourself up. But get your deadline. If you don't have a deadline, it will go on and on and on. We're gonna do a whole podcast on this. The difference between excellence and perfection. Sometimes people strive for perfection. That's not what we're about. God's perfect. We are not perfect, but we can strive for excellence. If you try for perfect, you will be on it for the rest of your life. All right. Mm-hmm. Excellence. Part of excellence is getting it done on time. And so we're not striving for perfection. We're striving for excellence. And that's part of excellence is getting it done in a timely manner. So map out your timeline, put a strict deadline on yourself as if it was a job. That way you'll get it done. Okay. And we got 2 more.
Shireen said she'd been working on her devotional for 2 years and maybe losing momentum. She mentioned that this is her stress reliever project. So I know for me, having a deadline would add a severe amount of stress to it. It's like, I got to make it. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'm going to get a bad grade, or I'm going to feel bad that I didn't make it. I'm going to feel like a failure. So what would you say for a stress reliever project like that? Like, what would you say is maybe a good cutoff point? Because she said 2 years at this point.
Yeah, I don't know on that. Okay. As far as with your project, it depends on your momentum, what you can fit into your schedule and all that. I would say there's something about you got to get it done, and even within the deadline, you got your deadline. When you're writing, don't think about your deadline. Okay, your deadline is more of a left brain kind of thing. When you're writing, just enjoy that stress relieving part of it. Enjoy that. Don't worry about, oh no, I got to get this done or whatever. When you're actually writing, don't worry about the deadline. When you stop writing, now you work about the deadline. That way you get your stress relief and you hit your deadline.
Cool. That'll give me a hand for my next project.
Okay, good. We got 2 more we're going to squeeze in.
Well, her 4th and 5th question we kind of sort of answered, but we'll answer these a little bit more specifically tailored to how important is it to decide early on either whether your project should be book or audio. So just choosing your medium early on, how important is that?
It's important because you might be in the midst of a book. It's like, I don't like writing books. So it's like, well, that's kind of a bummer. You should decide up front. And you know what? As a writer, there's something you're naturally, as a beginning writer, there are certain mediums you're drawn to. Just write for those the ones you're drawn to. Write out of your strength. Write what you know. Once you find your voice, then explore other mediums. That would be my advice to get you going. So I think that's it. I think we answered. This is all but Shireen. This is what we call this answering Shireen's questions.
The Shireen episode. Okay. No, we do have one more on the more specific. Is there any difference?
One more.
Is there any difference in writing when it is for print versus audio? And I do believe
we talked a little bit about that earlier. We talked about it earlier. With a book, you can go into more the psychology, the mentality. Dostoevsky is wonderful about this. Just where he gets into the psychology of each of his characters, even the minor characters. It's beautifully done. When you're doing audio, you're not going into their brain that much. I mean, you can kind of figure out what they're thinking. In movies as well, you can kind of figure out which is kind of fun. That's the fun game, right? Yeah. You're giving your audience clues. Okay, they just threw a chair through the window, so I'm guessing. I'm thinking
they might be pissed.
I'm thinking. That's right, exactly. If we can say that on this podcast,
that's your podcast. I don't know.
Oh, great!
You want me to bleep that out?
You just blanked on my podcast. Okay.
All right. All right. They are ticked off. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. We're riding the line of decency, please. Okay. All right. I think we need to wrap it up before we get in much trouble. Okay.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's funny. All right. Well, hey, guys, we are here for you. I love to tell great stories, and I want to help you tell great stories. And together, we can change the world. I'm not kidding. There's a whole podcast on that too. But let's do it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of StoryChat. If you want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions for John or feedback on the show, please email us at storychatwithjohn@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.